Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Charlene, and today we are going to do a little bit of prep work for my week's projects. So I am planning on doing some canning of some chicken, pressure canning tomorrow. So I went to the freezer today and I took out a bunch of packs of chicken breasts so they can defrost today so that I can start first thing in the morning. And then we are going to make some chicken broth, hopefully to go into the chicken cans. And then also, hopefully I'll be able to have some extra left over. So we are going to start. I have a 16-quart pot here. I've half filled it with water. I have some chicken. Actually, this one is turkey, but we're going to throw it together and I'm pretty sure it's going to taste the same. So what I did is I just kept from the last few meals the bones and some of the fat and everything from it, and put it in the freezer until I had a couple enough to make a nice big pot. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Dump all the bones in. And then the next thing is that I kept the peels of onions from my last few projects and put them in the freezer too until I was going to make some broth just to add some extra nutrition and some extra flavor into it. So I actually had just a bag and a part bag. So I'm going to fill the rest of this pot with water. Then we're going to take it over to the stove. I have this on high. I'm going to bring it to a boil. Then I'm going to let it simmer all day. And I will take everything out tonight. And then tomorrow we get to start fresh with just the broth. And I will warm it up a little bit tomorrow morning. I did not add any spices to this, no salt, no pepper, no nothing. I will add that whenever I'm using it in whatever recipe it's going to be in. And then also this morning, what I decided to do was make some fried potatoes. I had about 6 leftover baked potatoes and I didn't know what to do with, so I just cut up 1 large onion, put some Cajun seasoning, a little bit of olive oil, and that's going to cook for about an hour. And that's going to be, well, lunch, breakfast for my family, whoever would like to have some. Okay, well, I will bring you back when it is time to do the broth tomorrow. So anyways, today we are getting to the canning of the chicken. I already washed all the chicken breasts and I took off all of the fat. So then I'll show you here. This is my kind of prep station. So here's the chicken all washed, ready for me to cut. I started to cook some. This is, you do not have to cook. I partially cook it. You see all the white stuff all around. I don't really like to have that, the white stuff in my jars. So I tend to, because you can cold package, just get your jars, put your chunks of chicken into it, put your broth, a little bit of salt if you want, and that's fine to go. I prefer to cook it just a little bit, and then that way the white stuff's not in the jars because it does look a little bit unattractive. But if that doesn't bother you, then just raw packing it's good. So I am going to continue to cut bite-sized pieces, and when I am done cutting everything and cooking it, I'll come back and show you the pressure cooking steps. We have the chicken partially cooked now and it's cooled. We have the chicken broth and it's cool as well. So we have to work with everything at the same temperature so that we don't have glass breakage. So today I'm going to be doing mine in the 500 milliliter jars. The first thing you want to do is check the tops of all your jars every time to make sure there's no little chips, because the chips, if there's a chip at the top, it can affect your seal and cause spoilage. So I'm going to just do a quick. Okay, mine is all good. So we are going to start with putting in the chicken. I'm also, because we're using broth and I did scoop out as many bones as I could, there still might be a little bit of parts in here. So I'm going to use one of those in there. And I guess I'll just use, oh, that's for the broth. What am I doing? So first we stick the chicken in. And you can press it down a little. So this would probably be about as full as you want to get it. Just around the neck part. So then we're going to just continue to fill. And I have a 16-quart Presto pressure canner. And it fits eight of these 500 milliliter jars. At the bottom, on one layer, it'll fit 2 layers. A couple more in there. I also have a few of these chickens in 1 quart. Whoops. And but for the smaller meals that we make, I don't want the 1 quart of chickens is a little too much. So I like to have some of the 500 milliliters on hand as well. Oops. And it looks like I'm going to have more than the 8 jars. More chicken than enough to fill the 8 jars, but I will see how that goes. Actually, I might use those for dinner. Actually, that might be a good idea. A little too much. Okay, so here we are. Now, next step. So we'll put this chicken over here. So this part, I like to get a cookie sheet or some kind of tray because you usually end up spilling and it's better than it splattering everywhere. And then I'm going to put my strainer on. So get that a little closer. Then you just put your broth in. Oops. You're going to need to leave 1-inch head space at the top. It's just a little under. Let's see there. Okay, that's about 1 inch. Now we need to debubble. So sometimes there's air pockets. So I just grabbed a, whatever this is, a little stick, gets in there nice and between them. You just have to debubble like that, just a couple pokes. Got to do that for all of them. And at this point, you can push some of the chickens down. You'll see that there's pockets in certain areas where you can fit more chicken in there. Oops. Next step is you want to wipe all of the rims. Don't want to have any grease, any chunks of chicken on the tips. So you're going to want to make sure that you do a really good job in cleaning these. Okay, then you have your lids. Okay, so I soaked these in hot water for a few minutes. It's not necessary, But if, I don't know, I just feel like softening them a little will help for the seal. Then you put your lid on. You want it not super tight. You want to just basically feel a little resistance and then turn just a tad bit more. Okay, so we have the lids on. Now we're going to move over to the stove. Before we put them in the pressure canner, I'll show you a couple things we're going to double check first. Okay, so before we put the jars in the pressure canner, we need to check a couple things. You want to double check that your pressure gauge is on tight. So just screw underneath, and sometimes they loosen a bit if you don't take them off after a return, which I always do. So that's one, because the pressure can escape through there and then you're not going to get it to the right pressure. The next that you need to do is put on a little oil around the seal, just a little olive oil. I don't do this every single time, but whoops, oh, okay, that wasn't too smart. I spilt it everywhere. You just need to rub it. Sorry, making a lot of noise. Just rub it around. Just get a thin coating. They come already coated, but that only lasts so long. So yeah, the last time I pressure canned, or 2 times ago, I guess there was no lubricant left on there. So after a half an hour, it still wasn't pressurizing. So I figured that's what it was. So I had to take it out and then do this. So it took about 45 minutes off my time just from that, by the time it had to depressurize. So now I'm going to be doing it every couple times I'm pressure canning, just to save on that hassle. Okay, so that was one thing. The next thing is you need to fill, your book will tell you how much water to put in, plus there's the little mark on the inside of your canner, like little marks, the minimum. Mine is the 16 quart, so I had to put 3 1 quart of water in there. Sorry, my hands are all greasy now. Okay, so then the next thing, well, actually before the water, make sure that there's one of these on the bottom. It's not supposed to, the jars are not supposed to sit directly on the bottom of your canner. So always make sure that you have one of these on. Okay, and you also will need to put just about a tablespoon of vinegar in there. It's to keep from your jars getting watermarks, especially if you have hard water. It will be like a white film all over. It's not going to hurt anything. It doesn't get inside or anything. It's just, it's not so nice to look at. So you can either put vinegar in it, or you can also use cream of tartar. I think it's like a teaspoon, sorry. Just put it in a little bit of water, mix it around really good, and then just throw it right into your pressure canner. So I'm just going to add a splash of this, and I'll move you guys over. Okay, there we are. So we'll just add a splash. I already put in the water, and now we're just going to add the jars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where did my 8th one go? Okay. So now, see, just to show you from a top view, and you will see at the side here, there's arrows right here, and the arrows from your lid have to line up. You'll see right here. So I always check this part to see which way, because you want to make sure that the gauge is facing outward so you can read the pressure. So you just put it on, line up there, and then you twist it shut. And that's that. And then you have to turn it on, your stove on. I just turned mine on medium. I have a gas stove. And it's going to take a good half an hour to heat up enough. You want to do it very gradually. Everything that I did today was cold. So the broth was cold, the jars were cold, the meat was cold. So my water in my pressure canner has to be cold as well when you put it in and you start it. If you had everything hot, then the water needs to be hot too. They need to be right around the same temperature. Otherwise, that's when you can have, a glass break. It will help, the seal won't seal and everything like that, and you can have a hot mess. So we've done it a few times by accident, but you learn. We have steam coming. Okay, see how all that steam is coming out? Now we need to put a timer for 10 minutes and let that bit of steam release for 10 minutes before we are going to put on the weights on top to create the pressure. Okay, so that I just set a timer for 10 minutes. While we were waiting for that, I decided to make dinner. Whoops, sorry, a little wobbly there. So I am actually making, I'm going to make Basil Chicken Pasta. We still have the chicken left over from here. So I have to recook this a little bit because it wasn't fully cooked for when we were doing the pressure canning chicken. So I have to cook this a little bit, but I am going to start with the gluten-free pasta. So this is already partly cooked. If you are new to cooking gluten-free pasta, the one thing I noticed, this is brown rice pasta, which I prefer over the white rice pasta, but I find the water gets very murky like this, and then it doesn't cook properly. So usually about halfway through, only if it happens, it doesn't happen every time, don't ask me why, but I don't know. I usually dump the water and put fresh water in for the last portion of it, otherwise I'm going to sit there for 20 minutes while it's trying to cook through. So we're going to wait for that. We're going to wait for the steam. While we did that, I cleaned the kitchen and I put the rest of the chicken broth ready to pressure can after the chicken goes. So while we're waiting for all of that, I thought that I would share with you things you have to be careful of when you do canning. We always try our best to make sure it seals and everything, but sometimes we make mistakes or it just happens even when we do the best that we can. But both of these, so these are ground hamburger that I jarred up, probably, actually I think within a month I did these ones. Anyway, so I went into my pantry to get some, and this one has a different color. I didn't notice right away compared to this one, right? Like this is the proper color down here. So then when I had a peek, you can hear that this isn't, and it just opens like that, so it's not sealed. So that one is going in the garbage. We don't need anyone sick. This one, I went into my upstairs pantry and I smelled something funny, and I'm like, okay, something went bad. So if you look really close, you can just see it's not just the ring of grease. There's like white mold. Actually, I don't even know. I'm not going to breathe this in. But anyways, this just pops right off. And it's really, really gross. So I'm not going to inhale that because I don't know how bad it is for you. But I did make a mistake with this, and I think this one was my fault. I put it, that one smells bad. Okay, we'll just move that over there. Oh, wow. I had put all the lids on and stuff, and then I realized that I forgot to debubble. So I took all the lids off, did the debubbling, put the lids on, and I don't think I re-wiped, because even just doing that, you could have some drips in there. So I'm thinking that's what happened with these ones, but I'm not really sure. It doesn't really matter. It just matters that I caught it, and we are gonna just throw that away. It's awful. I hate wasting food like that, but it's better than someone getting sick. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that, let you know what it looks like. It does happen to everybody, no matter what. I've been canning for about 3 years now, and I rarely have that ever happen. I think that might be the third or fourth times in 3 years that it's happened. And usually I only get one one jar, but this one I remember doing it to the whole batch, so I'm going to have to be cautious. And definitely a lesson learned with a little expense. Okay. But anyways, so this is really, really steamy. It has been 10 minutes and you can see that the steam is escaping. This is to get all of the air out of the canner and to also eliminate the air pockets in the jar. When the air vent is down position, that means there's no pressure in the canner. I'm showing you that they are up, so now I can put on the pressure regulator and wait till it gets to 11 pounds of pressure. And so when it hits the 11 pounds of pressure, I will set it for 115, and then when the timer goes off, we just turn the heat off and let it come down naturally. That's going to take another 20 minutes at least. So canning is just one of those things that you pretty much have to plan on being home for most of the day, because the whole time for pressure canning something like this, depending on the time, would be, let's see, at least 30 minutes to get it there, plus the 10, and then the hour. You're talking about 2.5 to 3 hours usually, but for the whole process, because you want to do everything gradually. Even when it comes down to pressure, you have to lift the lid off just a little bit, leave it for 5 minutes, take the lid off. You want the temperature in your house to be similar to what it is so that there is no cracking. So extreme temperature change too. Say it's really cold in your house and this is super hot. Same thing, you could have some cracking. So just things to think about. So that's the noise it makes when it's at 12 pounds of pressure. So I'm just going to slowly keep turning this down just a little till it gets, I think it's a little above 12, so that it's not so noisy. I'm just going to keep turning it down just a little bit till it gets to the point where it's at the noise that I want to make. So we have 1 hour and 15 minutes. And while this is still going, our pasta got done. So it's draining in the sink. So before the pasta comes back in, I'm going to put some olive oil in the bottom, some basil, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and then he can spice that. Oh, I almost forgot the chicken. And so I cooked the chicken a little bit longer. Now all I'm going to do is just break it up. Okay. Normally I cook it in the pressure cooker so it flakes off, but it's going to have to break. So I just break these into little pieces. Okay. I'm going to dump the cooked pasta in here. Mix it around and see if we need to add any more seasoning. So that does not look like it has quite enough. We're going to put just a little bit more olive oil in there. Just a little. But it needs more basil for sure. And that's it. That is basil chicken pasta, nice and simple and easy. I am going to do the exact same thing but use regular pasta, so I won't bore you and show you all of that. But it's a nice, easy, quick meal that you can make. And since I have the extra chicken, why not? The hour and 15 minutes timer went up. All I did was turn the stove off, let it sit until it would depressurize itself. Took about 20 to 30 minutes. So as you can see now, the gauge is down at 0. This has fallen. The black one at the back has fallen, so you know all the pressure is out. Only then do you lift this off. And if there was any more pressure, it would come out through there. Now what you have to do is you have to wear gloves because it's very hot. You just want to twist this, and yeah, I tend to, you can take the lid right off. I tend to like to let it sit like this for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then I usually take the lid off and leave the lid off itself for about 10 minutes before we have to remove it. The 10 minutes is up, pardon me, and now we're going to take out the jars. Okay, and that's the 7 jars of canned, that's what they look like. Canned chicken. Now I still have to do the chicken broth. I have to empty the pressure canner because the water's still boiling hot. So I have to dump it in, put cold water in, and start the process all over again. The only difference is going to be the amount of time. So these are 1 quart, so they're going to go in for 40 minutes rather than these were in for an hour and 15. So I will show you everything when it's all done. It is the next morning, and you can see all of our jars of, what do we get? 2, 4, 7 jars of cut up chicken, and we have 7 jars of chicken broth. You'll notice the broth is a little darker than normal chicken broth, but that's because of the onions that we put in there. And that is what the finished product looks like of the chicken, and all of them have sealed. So that is a really good day that we had yesterday. And I got, everybody really enjoyed the dinner, and my 12-year-old gave me a 10 out of 10 on it. So can't do better than that. The last thing we do here, we washed all the jars down with hot soapy water. We labeled everything with the date and what was in it. And then we took off the rings. So you're not going to store them with the rings on. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to test them. By just holding the tops, you're going to lift and test every one of them to make sure that it's not a false seal, that it doesn't look sealed, but it's not, and it just pops off. That happens once in a while. If that does happen and you just finished canning them, just put the ring back on them and stick them in the fridge and use that. It's perfectly fine and safe at that point in time. And the rest just store and enjoy.